It seemed like just another ordinary day at the bustling airport in downtown Miami, where travelers hurriedly made their way to their flights. Among the crowd was a woman named Jasmine Clark, quietly sitting by her window seat, lost in the view of the clear skies, unaware that the day ahead would be anything but ordinary. For her, it was simply another business trip, another flight, nothing out of the ordinary. Little did she know, her journey was about to take an unexpected turn. Jasmine wasn't a celebrity or a public figure. She was a determined entrepreneur, running her own tech startup. However, she didn't flaunt her success. She preferred to stay under the radar, living a quiet, low-profile life. Dressed in comfortable attire, no flashy accessories, she looked like any other professional heading to a meeting. Most people wouldn't recognize her if they passed her on the street. To everyone else on the plane, she was just another passenger. But one flight attendant would soon learn that Jasmine was much more than she appeared to be. As the plane started its journey, passengers settled into their seats, and flight attendant Olivia began her rounds. Olivia was known for her no-nonsense, strict approach to service. When she passed by Jasmine's row, she immediately noticed the woman sitting there alone, with no designer bags or high-end brands. To Olivia, Jasmine seemed like an ordinary traveler, someone who likely didn't have much to offer. With a curt smile, Olivia stopped at Jasmine's seat. Her voice was sharp, almost as if irritated. "Excuse me, miss, please fasten your seatbelt now. We're already delayed in getting started," Olivia said, her tone more critical than necessary. Jasmine blinked, surprised by the harshness of her words. She had been quietly minding her own business, but now, her calm was being interrupted. "Sure," Jasmine responded, fastening her seatbelt without a fuss. But Olivia wasn't done. "The seatbelt sign is on. It's important to follow the rules," she continued, dismissing Jasmine's compliance with a cold, almost mocking tone. Jasmine's pulse quickened, but she chose not to react. She had faced her share of unjust treatment before and had learned to keep her composure. But this time, Olivia's words carried an undertone of judgment, like Jasmine didn't belong there. As the flight continued, a strange tension hung in the air. Other passengers glanced uneasily at the exchange, but didn't intervene. Jasmine sat quietly, her mind racing. Why had Olivia singled her out? She hadn't asked for any special treatment. But it was clear that Olivia had already decided Jasmine wasn't worth her respect. Hours passed, but Jasmine couldn't shake the feeling that Olivia was constantly watching her, almost waiting for her to make a mistake. This wasn't about seatbelts anymore. It felt personal. Finally, when Olivia moved to the back of the plane, Jasmine took out her phone. She needed to tell her husband, Evan, about the uncomfortable situation. Evan was the CEO of a leading tech company, a man who had always encouraged Jasmine to stand up for herself. She wasn't sure where this would go, but she knew she had to reach out to him. She quickly typed a message, hoping Evan would understand. "I had a weird encounter with a flight attendant. She was really rude, and I can't shake the feeling it's because of how I look. Something feels off." The message was short, but it was enough for Evan. He would know what she meant without needing more details. Jasmine was upset, and she needed her husband to know what had just happened. What she didn't realize was that Evan's response would set off a chain of events that no one on the plane could have predicted. As Jasmine sat back, staring at her phone, she felt the weight of the situation. This wasn't just about a rude flight attendant. It was about how people made assumptions based on appearances, how they dismissed others without knowing anything about them. Meanwhile, Olivia continued her rounds, oblivious to the storm brewing. She handed out snacks, chatted with the passengers who were polite enough to respond, and went about her duties. She wasn't thinking about Jasmine anymore. To her, Jasmine was just another anonymous face in the crowd. Nothing special. But Jasmine wasn't about to let this go. She wasn't just going to ignore Olivia's behavior. She had worked hard for everything in her life, and she wasn't going to let anyone make her feel invisible. The day had already been tough, and Jasmine knew it was time to make her voice heard, not just for herself, but for everyone who had ever been treated unfairly. As the flight neared its descent, Jasmine's phone buzzed again. Evan's message was brief but clear. "Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it." The calm assurance in his words put Jasmine's mind at ease. She knew Evan didn't make promises lightly. Whatever he planned to do, she trusted him to handle it the right way. But Jasmine still didn't know exactly what would happen next. Would Olivia face any consequences? Would the situation be resolved? One thing was certain, Jasmine wasn't just another traveler anymore. She was about to make sure Olivia and everyone else on the plane knew that respect wasn't something to be taken for granted. The plane began its final descent. Jasmine felt the familiar pressure in her chest. She didn't know how Evan would handle the situation, but she knew he would act swiftly and decisively. As the flight attendants prepared for landing, Olivia moved toward the front of the plane. Just like any other routine service she'd performed countless times before. But Jasmine's thoughts were no longer on her destination. She had been transformed by this experience. No longer would she remain quiet. The interaction with Olivia had sparked something in her, an awareness of how easily people could be dismissed based on assumptions. Jasmine was no longer just a passive passenger. She was about to show Olivia that what happened on this plane mattered. When the plane finally touched down and the seatbelt sign turned off, passengers slowly stood to gather their belongings. Jasmine, however, lingered in her seat for a moment longer, mentally preparing herself for what she had to do. She wasn't about to walk off quietly and pretend everything was fine. She had to confront the issue head-on. As she stood up, her heels clicked loudly against the floor as she walked toward the front of the cabin. Olivia greeted her with a polite smile, as if to make amends for their earlier exchange. But Jasmine didn't return the smile. She walked past Olivia and stopped near the cockpit door blocking the aisle. Olivia, still unaware of what was coming, prepared to wish Jasmine a simple, "Have a nice day." But Jasmine wasn't about to let it go that easily. "I'm not here to argue," Jasmine said, her voice calm but firm. "I just want you to understand that I wasn't okay with how I was treated. The way you spoke to me wasn't just rude, it was disrespectful. It wasn't just you. It was everyone who assumed I didn't belong here." Olivia froze, her smile faltering. She hadn't expected this. She tried to brush it off, but Jasmine could see the shift in her expression. For the first time, Olivia wasn't in control of the situation. "I'm sorry if you felt that way," Olivia muttered, clearly trying to recover. But her words were weak, lacking the confidence they once held. Jasmine could see the shock in Olivia's eyes. She hadn't anticipated this confrontation, especially not from someone she had dismissed as unimportant. Jasmine wasn't finished. "It's not about your apology," she continued, her words cutting through the silence. "It's about how you treat people. I don't expect special treatment, but I also won't tolerate being treated like I don't matter. I'm the wife of the airline's owner, and I deserve better." The words landed with force. Olivia's face drained of color as the realization hit her. The woman she had dismissed so easily, the one she thought didn't deserve respect, was far more important than she could ever have imagined. Before Olivia could react, Jasmine turned on her heel, her footsteps sharp as she made her way toward the exit. She had made her point. As Jasmine walked down the jet bridge, she felt a quiet sense of empowerment. It wasn't about revenge. It was about standing up for herself and for everyone who had ever been underestimated. As Jasmine walked down the jet bridge, a sense of calm washed over her. It wasn't the kind of satisfaction one gets from winning an argument or gaining an advantage over someone. It was the quiet satisfaction of knowing she had stood up for herself and, in doing so, perhaps helped others who might have been quietly suffering in similar situations. The confrontation wasn't about proving a point to Olivia. It wasn't about revenge. It was about something much more important: respect. The experience had shaken Jasmine in ways she hadn't expected. She had always believed in rising above situations where people judged her, in staying calm and composed no matter the circumstances. But something about Olivia's behavior had pushed her past that threshold. It was more than just rudeness. It was the silent assumption that someone like Jasmine didn't deserve respect, that she was somehow less deserving of kindness simply because of her appearance. In that moment, Jasmine realized how pervasive such biases were, how easy it was for people to overlook others based on their assumptions about class, status, or even the color of their skin. But what Jasmine had done wasn't just a personal act of resistance. She had challenged the status quo. By speaking up and confronting Olivia, She had sent a message not only to the flight attendant, but to everyone who witnessed that exchange. No one should ever be made to feel invisible or unworthy. We all carry the responsibility to challenge those subtle yet harmful judgments, to speak up when we see inequality, and to treat each other with the dignity and respect we all deserve. Jasmine knew her words had struck a chord. It wasn't about her status as the wife of the airline's owner. It was about the recognition that everyone deserves to be treated with respect, regardless of their outward appearance. In the days that followed, Jasmine couldn't help but reflect on what had transpired. She felt a renewed sense of purpose and clarity. Maybe it was the support of her husband, Evan, who had promised to take care of the situation. Maybe it was the quiet satisfaction of making sure that the behavior she experienced wouldn't be swept under the rug. But above all, it was the realization that she was more than just a passenger on that plane. She was an active participant in the fight for dignity, in the fight to push back against the biases that still exist in our society. While Olivia may not have fully understood the weight of her actions in that moment, Jasmine knew that confrontation was only the first step. It was the kind of action that could spark a larger change, ripple effects that would challenge people to examine their own behavior and reconsider how they treat others. Jasmine wasn't naive. She knew that one confrontation wouldn't change the world overnight. But perhaps, just maybe, it would change one person's mindset, make them think twice the next time they judge someone based on appearances.